Just under 2 weeks to go until the regular season officially kicks off, and we have lots of hockey to talk about, guys. We almost made it. We're almost there. Total Hockey Now. Got you through the summer. One more mock draft to go today before the real deal next Thursday. It's been a lot of fun this summer talking fantasy hockey and getting through the dog days, and we're finally here. That's at Ant Rivera 86. I'm at Pucking Thoughts. That is at Fuzzy Chris 91. Christopher Merez. Sporting the Oakland shirt today is their final game going on in the Coliseum right now, and they're up 3-0. But that's neither here nor there. Boys, how we doing?
Doing great. It's speaking of like Oakland in their jersey. I mean, like they had some of the nice colors, nice jersey, nice uniforms, and who knows what's going to happen to them in the next couple of years. Sad state of affairs out there in Oakland. But happy to be here. Happy to be doing the final mock draft of the season. And the question is, will Adam draft a defenseman? That's the real question.
I will. It's just whether I'll draft whether I'll wait too long or not. And there was a mock where I think I'm going to be okay. We'll see. It's 10 teams today, so I shouldn't get caught with my pants down as much.
All right, so somebody clipped that because he said I should not get caught, which means that 100% he will. Maybe if maybe if Bet365 hanging out somewhere, we can get some live odds on that. Like, will Adam get caught again? Being like, oh, I should have taken a defenseman here, and
I can't. It's the last one.
It does. We have gotten here. This is our final practice round before the actual snipes start to really hit home. And I do see some people in that league that we have that some names that I recognize, and that is unfortunate because that means that some of you who have been watching and studying are going to know exactly where I'm coming from. This is like getting a little bit of insider information beforehand. So I'm just going to try to figure this out. See how I can zig while everybody else is zagging.
That a few more spots left in that league. I'm going to put the link to that league in the chat right now if anybody else wants to sign up.
That Cale Makar Lane Hudson draft is going to taste oh so sweet when that happens.
I'm just saying, Lane Hudson's no longer a secret anymore, people. It's hard not to know. It's hard not to know. So if you pass on him, that is of your own fault. You have been warned by all of us quite a bit.
Now, we've been doing, positional rankings and odds. Before we get to our 10th and final mock draft of the season, which will be a 10-teamer Banger League draft, we will be talking some awards odds. And before we'll go through all even the Selke. We'll spend a minute on the Selke because we got to do them all. But we'll go through each one. We'll make our picks, but our best bets and all that good stuff. But first thing we got to do here is we got to get into NHL headlines here, and of course, a segment we love called Quick Hits. Let's go through the stories of the day here. First up and foremost, Austin Matthews. Craig Berube said the injury. He didn't participate in practice Tuesday or Wednesday. Upper body injury, not too serious, should be fine. No reason to impact his draft status somewhere in that 3 to 7 range, no matter what kind of league you're in the first round. Some news out of the Sabres, though. Rasmus Dahlin should be back on the ice soon as he deals with his mystery injury, but he was named captain of the Buffalo Sabres today. I think that's the right move there. The Sabres are going to open up their season with some exhibition games against European clubs before playing the Devils in Czechia with a 2-game series, the Global Series to open up. He's had the assistant captaincy or alternate captaincy for the last 2 seasons. Kyle Okposo was the captain, but he was traded and then retired. So Rasmus Dahlin he should have that C on his sweater for a long time up there in Western New York.
Yeah, that's it's very fair, very fitting. You guys know how much of a fan of Rasmus Dahlin I am, because some of you have been throwing some slack on his name, and I am not going to tolerate that, of course. But yes, good to see that the Sabres have given him the C. I didn't want to see them. Not that Kyle Okposo was like a patchwork, but I understand, it's the new wave is here of younger players for the Sabres, and I feel like Dahlin can definitely handle it. He's great on the ice. Great kid. Good for a rare W for the Buffalo Sabres.
Hockey is very private when it comes to these injuries. Isn't too serious. He'll be fine. What point in time does it come for you guys where like this starts to affect their draft status. Like how serious of an injury? Obviously, out for the season, you're not drafting, but like how serious of an injury does it have to be where it's like, maybe I'm not taking Austin Matthews, or maybe I'm not taking Rasmus Dahlin as my second or third defenseman.
I think as long as a guy is going to be ready to go for the season open, especially someone that's been around the league a few years, it doesn't impact my, ranking or where I take them at all. But in related news, if we're going to talk injuries, a guy whose draft status could be impacted, Matt Boldy, week to week with a lower body injury, may miss opening night. Maybe it doesn't affect his stock too much. Maybe, if I've been he's in that Cole Caulfield, Timo Meyer, Clayton Keller area. Maybe now he slides to the bottom of that, but he's still kind of in the same realm. Drew Doughty, on the other hand, left knee injury, goes into the boards awkwardly, comes up holding his left knee. That's a guy who is probably no longer. I mean, granted, he was a third defenseman probably at best at this point. He's fallen off the board completely for me now. That's a guy that if he does come back this year, I look, when he starts to get close to coming back, that's when you take him off waivers.
Yeah, they say he's going to miss significant amount of time, so that should put your spidey senses up and drop him on your draft boards. Matt Boldy, Fuzzy Chris guy. So
no worries. I'm not getting. I mean, yes, I'm very worried. Don't draft him, please. Just leave him there. He's dying. Don't let him. But no, to me, the same thing like Adam says. Even if they don't play any of the remaining like preseason games, I'm like, okay, I get bubble wrapping these players a little bit. I just want you to be there for like game one of your team's game. That's it. Be there game one. Be ready to go. Obviously, the Drew Doughty news is tough, but that means somebody else is going to step up and get that top power play spot there. Drew Doughty had held on to it for a long time. So I will be paying attention to the Kings and what they are. I'm maybe not watching many of these games because it's preseason and I don't invest too much in it, but I want to know who's playing on that top unit. How much time are they getting? How does that unit look? Because I could probably then get a discount defenseman somewhere from there, looking at guys like Clark, maybe somebody like Mickey Anderson, Gavrikov. I don't know. There's some options there. There's some options.
Brant Clark was the guy last year that a lot of people were jumping on in drafts as like a late round defensive end, like, oh, he's going to be the guy. Well, maybe we were just a year early on that. Maybe he's going to get the opportunity now. So maybe this is the year where Brant Clark kind of just takes over that first power play unit, running the point there. So we'll see what happens with the Kings and now how this, affects them in the standings in the Pacific. Who knows? I know we talk about Drew Doughty being an older player, but he's still a reliable guy that's out there every night, playing 20 plus minutes, no problem. And now they're going to miss that from their lineup. So that's a tough blow for the Kings there. Patrick Waugh has zero, quote, concern that Ilya Sorokin has missed the first week of training camp after having back surgery during the offseason. Quote, I had to remove a lymph node 1 year, said Waugh. It wasn't my best start, but I feel like I was fine. So I feel like he's going to be fine as well. On their goaltending pecking order, he went on to say, quote, we have two very good goaltenders, and we're just going to manage the situation day by day or game by game. So no, I'm not concerned. Varlamov was the guy down the stretch last year and into the playoffs. Sorokin, I think he'll get every chance to kind of take the 1A spot from Varlamov and let him be the 1B, but it's tough to do that when you're not out on the ice.
And it's a back injury too. So, that's the goalies are mostly in a crouch position. So we're going to see how long it takes him to get back. This is the perfect opportunity. As we talked about last week, if you're doing any type of goalie tandem, maybe this is the two guys that you take, because obviously we know what Sorokin can be. He could be one of those top goalies. He was the top goalie in the last draft, but Varlamov is played well and kind of took some time away from him. That might be a perfect time to take that tandem if that's something that interested in.
Anytime a coach says I have zero concern, that means there is concern. That's what I understood from that. Like you said, like back injuries are tough. Any type of lower body injury for goalies, backs and stuff like that, they put their bodies through a grind. So it's also for goalies wanting to get the reps in. Like, I feel like it's important for them as well. It's a tough position to play. You want them to be 100%, having got some reps in some games to be ready for the season to go. Again, same thing. I don't think it will affect where I draft Sorokin. I'm not particularly worried about it just yet, but I do have the little, how can I put this? I have a little Post-it note next to his name, and it just says like, watch, because it could change very, very quickly. So I hope for Sorokin's sake he can. Not that Varlamov can't, but I want, if I'm drafting Sorokin as early as I am, I want him to play the majority of the games. I don't want this to be another scenario where it was like Swayman and Linus Ullmark last year. Like, you were drafting them early, but there was a split, and I wasn't really a fan of it. I don't want to invest a top pick in a goalie to get like 40 some odd games out of them, right? Like, I want them to push the 50-55 mark. So it's the same thing here for Sorokin. I want to see him play more. I have no problem with Varlamov playing like 30 some odd games, but I don't want him pushing the 40. It's not good value to me.
I agree. Fantasy wise, I try to avoid those like as close as you can get even splits like Boston had last year. Like you said, 30 games for the 1B or the backup goalie, whatever you call it. That's probably that ceiling of that number where you don't necessarily have to handcuff, but it's getting close. Now, Thatcher Demko also injured with Vancouver. Which of these goalie handcuff pairings would you rather have? Demko and Artur Shilovs in Vancouver, or Sorokin and Varlamov? I understand Vancouver's a better team, so you're going to get the wins there. But, as a tandem, I might lean towards the Islanders over the Canucks.
I agree with that. I think I'd rather have they're more talented, I feel like, than, and like I said before, we're a year removed from Ilya Sorokin being the #1 goaltender in fantasy. Like, it was only a year ago. So, yeah, I would take Sorokin, and we saw how well Varlamov played as well. I would take them, but if you're thinking of wins and stuff like that, maybe Vancouver is the way you want to go. But there's also other categories that fit these guys that just Sorokin would do better.
I'm going to go the Vancouver side. If you do draft Thatcher Demko, that's a problem, because that injury just doesn't. I don't like any of the wording around it. I don't like that they don't know. I don't like that it's really hush hush and we're trying to figure out and there's setbacks. I don't like that. Not that Shilov is not great, but you understand what he is. He's the plug-in guy. He's going to play as much as he can until Demko gets healthy, but when and where that happens is yet to be seen. So if you do draft Demko, you're handcuffing yourself to Shilov immediately. You have to get him at some point, because if not, you're drafting a goalie who's at least to my understanding, is not going to start the season, right? Whereas even if I'm drafting Sorokin or Varlamov, I can use them as a off by themselves, right? Varlamov more as a third option. I think you need a really good backup and a really good third option if you go with Sorokin, depending on how his body holds up and what. But I don't want any piece of Demko, and if that unfortunately happens where I do take him, then I need Shilov there. So I think the upside is depending on how your draft goes, where you need to go. But yes, in terms of wins, I also expect Vancouver to win more games. And at worst, if Demko comes back, he's healthy, he's fine, plays bulk of games, you can either drop Shilov or, I don't know. If he gets off to a hot start and he plays well, you can flip him for an actual goalie somewhere to somebody else who wants to bite on it. So,
but the goalie I'm targeting, if you take one of those goalies and you want to have a decent insurance policy as a third goalie and get him a little bit earlier towards the end of the draft to make sure you have it, is Connor Ingram in Arizona. I feel like as a third goalie, if you're going to take a Demko or a Sorokin, and whether you get the handcuff or not, if you get a different goalie, I think Ingram's not a bad way to go to kind of shore yourself up a little bit in case one of those two guys get hurt for an extended period or their injuries last into the season. Winnipeg re-signs RFA Cole Perfetti to a 2-year, $6.5 million deal, and Logan O'Connor is signed a 6-year extension with an average annual value of $2.5 million in Colorado. So real cap-friendly deal for them, for a team that's pretty strapped with the cap. And finally, and Chris touched on this on his Slapshot podcast, which a new episode came out earlier this week. How did Puckpedia go, by the way?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It did not get the result that I was hoping for. As a matter of fact, like Demko, we had a setback, so it didn't progress. But if you want to watch pain for 12 minutes, there's a YouTube video about it, and it doesn't get better.
Well, before he got to the Puckpedia on the Slapshot podcast, he did touch on this. And we talk about John Tortorella here, some of the decisions he makes on the ice sometimes. He certainly rubs people the wrong way because he's very blunt and direct and, doesn't care, says what he has to say and doesn't care whose feelings he hurts along the way. But you got to give this guy major props here, for inviting Guy Gaudreau, father of Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, out to Flyers camp last week just to come do a practice, come run drills, all that stuff. He says he's going to invite him out again. Obviously, what he is going through is just terrible, and nothing is going to heal that wound. Nothing is going to change the pain and all that. But to have a 90-minute distraction where like all that's on the forefront of your brain is the next drill and doing all that stuff. So like for somebody in that situation, that's invaluable. And for Tortorella to have the peace of mind knowing that, the Gaudreaus are, were Flyer fans growing up, they're in the area and all that. And for him to just extend the invite and be like, hey, if you feel up to it, come on out and just get a skate on for a little bit with us. Like that's just an aces move all the way.
If you're, just a casual fan of hockey, you may know of John Tortorella as one of the coaches, one of the head coaches in hockey and hothead and all that stuff. But if you really know hockey, you know that there is something ticking in there. We've seen it. We've seen it many times before. This is not the only time. I mean, he's done other things as well. And it's just a good move from John Tortorella to see him do this. And I'm happy to see him, take part in something like this.
Yeah, it's obviously a feel-good story. I had said it well, right? Like John Tortorella is a love-hate relationship because sometimes you just hate the moves that he does. It's like sometimes he's trying to fight an entire locker room and you're just like, John, what are we doing? And benching rookies and, sitting the captain. You're like, what are we doing? And then he'll do something like this where it's just an all-around class act to just reach out to, Gaudreau, who apparently has, like, he's a coach. He is coached at other different levels. So it's not just like a publicity stunt where we're just trying to get some media attention and stuff. He is coach. Coaches are coaches, no matter at what level. They have some insight. They have, it's just in their DNA at that point. That's who they are. So to bring him out there, and like you said, it's 90 minutes where you get to just not think about all the horrible things that are going on in the day-to-day and how he's got to cope and deal with this. And like hockey's a great place for that. Whether you watch it, whether you play it, to just sometimes it takes the moment. It takes all that stuff away for a moment. The minute you get on the ice, that's what's happening. You can leave the problems at the door and say, hey, they'll be there when I get back. But this was a great move by Tortorella, great move by the Flyers as well. Just a whole great organization. So shout out to obviously to John Tortorella. We are currently on the circle. We are at the love part. We will wait for John to make us hate him again. But for now, John's in our good books.
Like we alluded to earlier, if you draft Matvei Mishkov late in drafts, just be aware that the Tortorella factor is there. But good on Torts for getting Guy Gaudreau out there for at least a little bit of a mental distraction and break for a little while. So kudos there. Now, I don't know if Tortorella is going to be up for the Jack Adams this year by any stretch of the imagination, but we're going to talk plenty of awards here. As you can see there, we've got Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon on the red carpet walking in for the 2025 ceremony. A little look into the future there. Let's get the awards up on the screen here. And there they are walking in. Now, the first, we're going to try and go like least sexy to sexy in terms of the awards. So without further ado, let's start with the Selke Trophy. And, this is not a one that people are going to spend. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. I feel like it's because, the way it was Patrice Bergeron's award forever, and then Barkov and Kopitar were kind of the other nominees. Now that Bergeron's retired and Kopitar's getting up there in age, this is Barkov's award to lose at this point, unless he gets hurt. If he were to sustain an injury that would kind of take him out of the running, who else are you looking here on the list?
To me, I feel like it has to be Nico Hischier. I don't know how Matthews has gotten there. Not that he's not a Selke, but I don't think of Matthews as a great all-around player or a defensive specialist, one who can play in his own zone as well. That's just not. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a Leafs fan will hate tweet me, but I agree with you. It's Barkov's to lose. He fits the role of exactly what Patrice Bergeron was doing for so many years, which was, very effective in his own zone, plays every type of situation. You can trust him on the ice. It doesn't matter where. And then you never have to worry about Barkov and what's going on. You just kind of you just send him out there and you're like, hey, go ahead. And that's the same thing for Nico Hischier.
I'd agree. Hischier, if it's somebody else, especially with all the expectations in Jersey, a little bit more of a spotlight on the team this year. So yeah, that would be the guy if it's not Barkov for me.
Yeah, he's another guy that kind of has to stay healthy. I mean, he's had injuries throughout his year of not being able to finish the full season. But I agree with you guys. I think it's Barkov's to lose, and Nico Hischier at plus 900. I'll take that.
All right, easy enough. So if you're not going to bet Barkov because it's not really good to odds there, maybe Nico Hischier get you there. That's the Total Hockey Now consensus pick if it's not Barkov for the Selke. So we move right along to the Rookie of the Year, Calder Trophy. Let's see here. So, like last year, you kind of knew Bedard was going to get it. We've tried to make the case for our buddy Devon Levi. That didn't really work out too well because we said goalies, if they get hot, teams, that can steal some votes. And if Bedard got hurt, it would open the door. He didn't really get hurt for enough, and he just kind of ran away with it. If you were going to go with a goalie candidate this year, it would be Dustin Wolf. But as you can see there, plus 2,400. And I think Calgary is going to kind of go with a 50-50 split, not overwork them too much, even though Dan Vladar is the backup. So, it's Celebrini's award to lose. If Mishkov plays a ton and Tortorella doesn't, play too many games with him on the bench, same odds as Celebrini. So you can see they're the two odds on favorites. For me, if it's not one of those two, it's Logan Stankoven, because Dallas is going to rely on him. He kind of had a little bit of a coming out party during the end of the season last year for Dallas. He's going to be on a good team. He's going to have good players around him. So he's going to be able to produce while that focus is on other guys. So if it's not Celebrini, if he doesn't have a year like Bedard last year or close to it, or doesn't get hurt, or if he does get hurt, I should say, I would lean towards Stankoven. I mean, not much better odds than the top two there, but I would lean that.
I want to take Michkov, but yeah, that Tortorella dangling right in front of him is concerning as well. But what about Hudson? At plus 700. Chris, give us a little bit on that. Come on.
Yeah, make the case.
I first of all, plus 700 is down. Like the odds are slowly coming down because I remember you could get him at a probably up there in the 30-1 kind of range. And I think people are starting to realize that the kid is for real. Here's the one thing I will say. I find it interesting that Celebrini and Michkov are the same odds. I would have Michkov ahead a little bit just because he's played in the KHL, which is a professional league no matter what. I feel like the structure for Michkov is a little bit better than Celebrini, but again, the John Tortorella effect is right there. Stankoven, I think, is good because he's probably on the best team. So if there's any way that he can be part of that success, right? If the Dallas Stars are having success and he's part of it, then, good stuff is going to happen. But to me, Lane Hudson is definitely in the conversation. It's going to depend on how many games he plays and how meaningful that they are. And the advantage here for a defenseman is just that it's so hard to play the position as a rookie, right? It is exceptionally hard. Brock Faber was at a great conversation last year. And there are people who believe that he should have won it because of the position that he played on the team that he played and everything. He had 47 points, right? 8 goals, 39 assists. Really, really good. Nothing else really stands out, but he played a healthy amount of minutes. And those are good numbers. He played 82 games. So for Hudson, do I think that he can get more than 45 points? Yes. It's going to depend on obviously how much power play time he gets and how responsible is he going to be on the ice? Because this is still a team game. So Marty St. Louis is not going to truck him out there so he can get burned by professional hockey players every second. The good news is he has elite footwork. So he's all over the ice. And at some point, they're going to try to rein him in and say, hey, man, this is the structure. This is how we play. But I hope they don't take away that creativity from him because that's what makes him the player that he is. But if he starts racking up points, if he starts, doing what a lot of us think he can do, I think that's a money bet right there. I expect that odd to keep dropping. I expect it to see it at plus 600 at some point, maybe plus 550. I think this is the odd that's going to get it. But because he's a defenseman, like it would take probably around 70 points rather than Mitch Celebrini to kind of take it, which is pretty good, right? In the modern day NHL. But like if Lane Hudson finishes, I don't know, with like 45, 46 points, playing 23 minutes a night, 24 minutes, good power play points, top 4 pairing, I don't know how you take it away from him at that point. It's going to be really, really hard.
A couple names I just want to point out on that list. Normally, when you have two guys from the same team, they can hurt each other. And we have a couple examples that here with the Sharks. I think if Will Smith has a big year, that could eat into Celebrini's votes to a certain degree. However, you see Maverick Bourque's name up there. I don't think it has that effect on Logan Stankoven. I think because he already has been introduced to the public a little bit. I think he's gonna be expected to kind of step up and fill some of the void. I know Wyatt Johnston is expected to fill the void of Pavelski, but maybe Stankoven kind of bumps up on that list a little bit too there. So in terms of roles. So, and the other thing I wanted to just before we move on from the Calder Trophy, Philip Gustafson in Minnesota has been going as a late round goaltender in drafts. The fact that Jesper Wallstedt is on this list gives me a little reason to caution, even as a emergency third goalie on your fantasy roster, maybe there's other ways you can go besides Gustafson there. So we'll see how that goes. And of course, Askarov on that list as well. But I think that's going to be, he probably gets like a 50-50 split between him and Mackenzie Blackwood or whoever is going to be the goalie for the Sharks, the other goalie this year. They did get Vitek Vanacek as well. Looking at the Jack Adams Award, last year it was taken home by Rick Tocchet. Don't see him on the list here. Sheldon Keefe, the odds-on favorite. Don't know why Travis Green is number 2. That is throwing your money away. I could see an Andrew Brunette in Nashville. They've got the team this year. He's got to be the one to coach it now. The guys I'm looking at, would be Chris Knobloch, Craig Berube, or Andre Turigny. If Turigny gets the Utah Hockey Club in the playoffs and voting happens at the end of the regular season, it's going to be too good of a story to ignore. Another coach would have to have an insane season for it to not, in that first season, technically not an expansion team, but relocated team, all that stuff. Looking at Berube, because it's the Toronto, if the culture has changed there and it's visible in the way they play, I know that it's voted on at the end of the regular season. So playoff success doesn't factor in here. I think if the vibe is right, and people are happy with how things going in Toronto, he gets a boost there. Knobloch maybe gets it if there's no other clear-cut favorite. He kind of gets it on a year delay because he should have been a guy considered for it last year. If Tocchett's not there, maybe Knobloch wins it last year. So those would be the 3 guys I'm zeroing in on.
Yeah, for me, Sheldon Keefe is kind of right place, right time right now. The Devils were very disappointing last year, following a playoff appearance the year before that. And now he comes on to this team that's kind of been reset, finally has a goalie, got some good defense, and are looking to stay healthy. So seeing him at the top is, I would not doubt that. I'm looking also at Andrew Brunette plus 900. He was the runner-up last year. So to see him get this opportunity, especially as I thought he would have been the Devils head coach and they would have gotten rid of Ruff the year before. But, there goes that. But I also like the plus 1,200, like you said, with Craig Berube. I think that if Toronto, gets into the playoffs, plays way better than they did last season, new coach, new digs. I think those are my 3 there: Brunette, Berube, and Keefe.
I want nothing to do with the left side. I'm going to be straight up here. For me, for any of those coaches to win it, like for Keefe or Brunette or Berube, they'd have to have 50 plus wins in a season for it to even make sense. Because those are good teams, right? We expect them to do well no matter what. If they didn't do well, it would be a shock, right? So to me, I feel like if they do well, you're like, okay, right? You have an abundance of riches and you did exactly what you thought you should. Yes, there's some coaching in there. I'm not taking anything away from them, but it's not shocking. How Travis Green is at plus 800 is absolutely wild.
I double check that.
FanDuel's just stealing your money right there. If you place a bet on Travis Green, please send an essay as to how you thought that was a great idea. For me, it's Andre Tourigny and it's Steve Carberry. For me, again, I want to see coaches that can take teams and bring them somewhere. I would even throw Lindy Ruff on that team. Like the Buffalo Sabres are like, we're hoping they get somewhere, but this is a team that's trying, right? And you bring back Lindy Ruff, and if the Sabres make the playoffs or exceed their expectations, I feel like some of that is coaching, right? The same thing with Carberry. You're taking a Washington team, like they were not very good last year, right? They were not. And they made the playoffs because every other team couldn't, right? But if you take that team and you secure a spot and you deserve it with some of the players that they brought in, like that's a team that struggled to score goals. They struggle to generate shots. You know, that now Ovechkin's getting older, so they bring in other players to try to support that. There's something there. But Tournier is definitely the one with all the hype around Utah. They are a good hockey team, but now they also have ownership behind them that's willing to spend money and help them bring it. So now it's putting the pieces together. And Tournier's had a lot of successes at all the different levels that he's gone to. You don't have to worry about playing in a college rink and is the team moving and all these other distractions. Now it's like, hey, this is your home. This is what we got. There's a ton of buzz. Bring it home kind of thing. And again, those to me are the better odds. They're plus 17, right? Plus 1,700 on both is really good. I would sprinkle in a little bit on Lindy Ruff just because he's going back to a very familiar spot. The Buffalo Sabres at some point have to take a step. But that's what but again, on the left side, it's just nothing there is really screaming to me, yes, value. Like if the Leafs make the playoffs, great. Like, okay, they've been doing that consistently. That's not the problem, right? So they would have to do something just out of this world for it to be like, wow, that coaching change really made a change, So I'll go with the value on the right side. More of a like kind of throwing darts here, seeing what we hit.
One other thing about the Utah Hockey Club, the new bill, they're going into the Delta Center this year, and there's a 16,000 seat arena, and apparently about 6,000 seats are obstructed. I know people aren't happy about that. Everything kind of happened very quickly with moving the team. They're already trying to scheme up ideas on how to improve those sight lines, including like lifting the level of the ice, the playing surface a little bit. So give them time. It's still, no matter how, however it's going to be in Utah, it's still better than what it was going to be in Arizona this year. So
they basically took a team before they won it. Like Ryan Smith said it, they were hoping this would go on like next year so they can prepare. So they've taken all of this, they've ran with it, they've done the best that they could with the time that they have. I get that there's obstructed seats and it's not ideal, but that's not that's not a place for hockey. It wasn't built for hockey, right? It was built for basketball. So now they're trying to say, hey, how can we accommodate this without having, major renovations during the year? So, and like you said, Adam, literally anything is better than what was going on in Arizona. So when you're sitting in your obstructed seat, just remember that Arizona had half the capacity, even without the obstructed seats. So if you have like 11,000 seats, Arizona had half of that in a college bar. So be nice to them.
Be nice to the new people there. Be nice to the new team. Now, no bling bling checking in. He goes Stankoven for his Calder pick there. Why don't we head on over to the Norris Trophy, talking about the defenseman there, and a lot of good names up on the list. For me, I think this is the year Evan Bouchard. I maybe gets the recognition here. That's my pick. I mean, Roman Josi also deserves some recognition, and maybe with Nashville being the darling team that everybody's going to watch this year, maybe he gets a little bit of a boost in that regard, because I expect him to play just as well as he have. It's just a matter of whether he gets the recognition or not. Looking at the right side, if Noah Dobson has a year like he had last year, that's a guy you could consider. Victor Hedman as well, the new captain in Buffalo there, Darlene. But just going, Quinn Hughes, I know, got it last year. It's tough for guys to win it 2 years in a row, especially when you're in you got a quality other options here. But for me, I would go with Evan Bouchard in Edmonton, running that power play, the amount of points he's going to get, the amount of minutes he's going to have to play, because that blue line is super thin. So that's my pick right there.
It's like the Norris is not what it's traditionally anymore, because you don't have to be the best overall defenseman. It's basically which defenseman has the most points now. That's kind of what they're looking at. So I can understand the argument for Evan Bouchard, but I would need him to he'd have to flirt with 90 plus points for it to even make sense, right? Kind of like what Erik Karlsson did that one year where he won it. You knew he wasn't the best defenseman, but he racked up the most points, and that's how he got the award. So there are a lot of better overall defensemen than Evan Bouchard, right? So again, yes, he plays on the best power play in the world, and he might have to play more minutes, but are those minutes going to be meaningful? Is he the best overall defenseman? I'm not putting him out there to kill penalties and stuff like that. There are lots of things that kind of limit him to not just a one-trick pony, and even the trick that he does is elite, right? It's good. He's got a bomb and he can rack up points, and I'm okay with that. To me, it's Cale Makar's award because he's so good just overall on the ice. He can rack up the points. He can play all those meaningful minutes. He can play those different, mostly the power play. He did a little bit of penalty kill here and there, but that's not where I want him. But to me, it feels like another Cale Makar one. But I don't think that there's enough recognition for the guys like Miro Heiskanen, the guys like Noah Dobson, the guys like Victor Hedman and Dahlin. Those are guys who play meaningful minutes on teams that need them. They make their team better when they are on the ice, right? Cale Makar makes his team better on the ice. He also plays a ton, so he has no choice. I don't know if Evan Bouchard makes his team better when he's on the ice. I don't think he hurts it too much, but I don't think he changes the pace of play when he's on the ice.
We got Parker the Under Better checking in on the chat. They should give the award for best defenseman to the best defensive defenseman and stop giving it to the top offensive defenseman. Now, an idea I had when we talked about Norris Trophy odds last year is just make a new trophy. Just make a new award for best defensive defenseman. It's really not that difficult. There's not that many awards to give out. Just make a defensive defenseman award. Give these second, third pairing guys that, the penalty killer defenseman, give them a little love too.
If I'm looking at all those players, a lot of them would play for their country, right? And they would probably play meaningful minutes. I'm not saying Evan Bouchard wouldn't, but I don't think he would be the guy who's out there really late trying to protect a 3-2 lead. That's not him, right? And I think that's what hurts him here. But because this award is so heavily weighted on points, yes, there should be an award for the best overall defense. There's so many advanced stats that can help you with that as well. Just give something to the guys who actually play the position.
Just not plus minus.
No. Plus minus is a made up number. Remember that.
I like what Parker's saying, and for that reason, I'm going to sprinkle plus 1,500 and drink some of that Fuzzy Chris juice on Rasmus Dahlin.
All right.
174 hits, 154 blocks last season. He's the captain now up in Buffalo. I'd like to at least see him get into the top 3, be a nominee for sure. But, plus 1,500 with Rasmus Dahlin, I don't think you could go wrong there. I think he's the best option out of that, right side to me, if I'm taking a chance on one of them.
Those are our picks for the Norris Trophy amongst the Blue Liners. Now let's head to the crease. Defending winner Connor Hellebuck at plus 600 odds on favorite. Also Igor Shesterkin and Jeremy Swayman, who has yet to do anything with the Bruins yet this season. The 3-way tie for odds on favorite. There goes Sorokin at plus 900, Demko at plus 1,000. Then you get to the right side. Jacob Markstrom plus 1,100, Vasilevsky plus 12, and then all those guys right there plus 1,500. Shesterkin's in a contract. They're talking contract for Shesterkin, so that contract can come into play a little bit in terms of maybe performance. Although I don't know how much higher Igor Shesterkin can go because he already plays at a pretty high level. Connor Hellebuck could repeat. If I'm looking at a name on the right side, I'd probably go Vasilevsky because he's going to have the full season, so he'll have better numbers over the course of the full season and won't have that adjustment period when he came back. And I believe it was early November last year. So he didn't really get going until Thanksgiving, December. So he has a full season. He's going to get the lion's share of the workload. Love the 12-1 there on the right. He's going to be an important part of that Tampa Bay team. So that would be my pick on the right side. What do you got? Let's go to Chris next. What do you got?
Man, I guess if I have to pick one from the left side, it would probably have to be Igor Shesterkin. Demko, I can't trust. Sorokin, I'm just not there yet. Igor Shesterkin plays on the best team out of all those goalies on that side. Swayman, who knows with his contract. Connor Hellebuck is a great bet every year. There's just no value in specifically a plus 600 for it. And to me, the New York Rangers are a better team than the Winnipeg Jets, and that just that's just math. On the right side, I mean, I get Jacob Markstrom's getting a lot of love there, and I think that's fair. I just don't know if he's better, right, as he gets older now than any of those guys on the left side. Vasilevsky is always still a good bet. I'm interested in those guys that are plus 1,500. Like Jake Ottinger is there. This is a goalie that goes top 5. So why is he there? UC Saros getting no love, considering like there's no real backup there. I'm not worried about Scott Wedgwood stealing stars for him. That team is massively improved. They're expected to do well. This is a team game overall. He can probably go get the stats, right? Plus 1,500 is definitely a choice there. I would probably sprinkle a little bit on Saros, a little bit on Ottinger. They are really good. You can also put Sergei Bobrovsky in that conversation as well. He's right there. He's on a really, really, really good team. I don't understand why the odds are so like behind for them when I consider them probably more on the left than they are on the right. It's interesting.
Yeah, plus 600 for Shesterkin, who's probably going to be playing out of his mind for that contract, is probably the best of that left-hand side. Yeah, I don't know why Demko should be far below even Saros and Ottinger, I would think. And Sorokin's just going to have a tough time because, he's playing on the Islanders, unfortunately. So that's going to be tough for him. I do like Vasilevsky, like you, at the plus 1,200. So I'd sprinkle some on that. And I would sprinkle some on Saros and Ottinger. And maybe Markstrom. But I think he's a little high too for right now. I think it's because of, the offseason and the Devils and stuff like that. But Vasilevsky is a very safe pick from the right side. And so is Ottinger and Saros to me.
Now, I think Markstrom is certainly going to play a lot, but when they see opportunities to, give him a night off, keep him a little bit fresher, they're not going to hesitate to throw Jake Allen out there. So maybe that becomes, games played becomes a little bit of an issue compared to other guys in terms of for Markstrom there. So there's our Vezina pick. We got 3 to go here. We'll get the link for the 10-team mock draft in the chat shortly. First up is Art Ross trophy odds. And let's face it, this is always Connor McDavid's award to lose at this point, as you can see by the minus 160 there and everybody else's plus odds. So in a season where McDavid doesn't play enough games to lead the league in scoring, who are we looking at here? Left side, right side? For me, and not to step on Anthony's toes here, but if you get a healthy Hughes plus 75 games, I love that at plus 3,000 because he's going to rack up goals. He's going to rack up assists. So if he plays 75 plus, it's Hughes. If it's not Hughes, I think, it's not, a ton of value, but it's tough to not look at Nathan McKinnon for that to take home the Art Ross.
Same. If McDavid can't go for whatever reason, I think it's just Nathan McKinnon's. Colorado's going to look real similar from last year, but a little bit worse because they just still don't have the depth, and they're going to roll McKinnon and Rantanen out there as much as they can, and their top 5 players are going to play as much as they can, and you can't slow them down on home ice. So I do think that Jack Hughes can at least flirt with it, right? The problem is that McDavid is so good that you need McDavid to not be himself, and I don't know how that happens.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been healthy for me enough for Jack Hughes, for me to pick Jack Hughes. He's got to give me at least 1 or 2 years where I see him play a full, slate of games. He's been hurt every year. So to put money on him, just doesn't seem right. Obviously the line is Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, but when you're going to be on a line with Jake Gensel and Braden Point, I'm going to sprinkle some money on Nikita Kucherov there. I like that line, and I think he's going to get a lot of points like he did last year. I mean, wasn't last year he was in charge for most of the year? So I'm going to go with Nikita Kucherov, especially on that was probably one of my favorite lines with him, Braden Point, and Jake Gensel. I can't go against Kucherov there. I like it.
It's arguably, I mean, not so arguably, one of the top lines in the league. I mean, I haven't really thought about who the top lines are, but that's definitely got to be in the conversation. So there we go. There's the Art Ross. Let's get the Rocket Richard trophy up on the screen here. And, who's going to lead the league in scoring? And we know Austin Matthews last year was flirting with 70, didn't quite get there. We were hoping for it. But looking at some of those other names on the list, we got Pastrnak, Draisaitl, all the names you would expect on the right, the pure goal scorers. For me, the easy answer is Pastrnak. He's got Lindholm, centering him now. That Boston offense continues to run through him. But if we're going to pick a longer guy on the right side, it's Philip Forsberg for me. Because he's going to, he was one of their top scorers last year. They're going to lean on him again. He's, no worse than a second-round pick fantasy-wise in terms of production with goals and assists. He lights the lamp. And, yeah, I know Stamkos is there, but like we talked about in previous episodes, now teams aren't going to be able to necessarily just focus on that Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist line. They're going to have to account that Stamkos is there too, so maybe that opens up a little bit more for Forsberg. So for me, it's Pastrnak or Forsberg.
That's fair. Again, I feel like this is another one where Matthews wins it unless something happens to him. On the left side, I'm going to give my money to Kirill Kaprizov. I think that he's still getting there, but it wouldn't shock me to see an explosion of like 50 plus goals. I understand that it's going to, he's not a 70 goal player, but I mean, if you're hitting 70 goals, your name's Austin Matthews. So then you rightfully deserve to win the Rocket Richard. If I had to pick someone from the right side, I would go with a little bit longer shot here. I'd go with Mikko Rantanen. And I don't feel like that's a long shot just because he plays with McKinnon. And, Rantanen can score goals. Yes, he can rack up points, but he can also score goals. And McKinnon can feed him the puck on the power play. Cale Makar can feed him the puck on the power play. My expectation is probably Jonathan Drouin gets the start on the top line with Rantanen and stuff. So there's that, and Drouin can pass the puck as well. So Mikko Rantanen is probably in the best spot on that right side. I'm not going to take anything away from Forsberg or even Braden Point because he's got Kucherov feeding him. Zach Hyman would need a ridiculous amount of goals again and that happens because McDavid and Draisaitl are feeding him. But I like the value on Rantanen at plus 3,000 just because he can score goals. But again, this is Austin Matthews' award to win.
Just dropped the link for our mock draft, our 10-team mock draft banger league coming up here in just about 5 minutes, plus, the few minutes before the draft actually begins when you're in the waiting room. So if you want to get in, copy that link, get on into Yahoo, and join us for our final mock draft of the summer. So there's the Rocket Richard talk. Let's now we close with the Hart Trophy. And, McKinnon's the defending, winner of this award. And it's all the names you would expect to be on the list here. For me, I think maybe this is the year for Austin Matthews. Or if Jack Hughes is 75 plus games and produces the way we do, I think gets nominated. I don't know if he gets there. If Kucherov can drive that line again, you can certainly consider him. But for me, I got to go Matthews here. I just think that if Berube does what I think is going to happen in Toronto, it'll be another big year from him. That's my pick on the left side. Looking at the right side, I don't know if there's really anybody there I would look at. Maybe Matthew Tkachuk as an absolute long shot, but for me, it's Matthews. I am too. Chris is a wild guy. I'm a Leafs guy this year, so you feel free to ridicule me throughout and at the end of the year.
Well, it also makes sense, the story, right? I mean, he becomes the captain, wins the MVP award, takes the Maple Leafs to the playoffs again. I think that, and this is all in-season stuff, so I could see Austin Matthews getting in. And like you went with Jack Hughes, I'm going to go with Nikita Kucherov again. Plus 1,800, I like that. Like I said, I like the line, and I think he has an opportunity. I mean, he was the best player for most of the season last year, and I definitely could see him getting even better with that top line.
Again, on the left side, this is Connor McDavid's award to win. He's literally the best. He's too good for the NHL. Imagine being too good for like the 0.1% of the world. It's just something I could never fathom. If it's not McDavid, I'm going to spread a little bit on Kucherov. If Kucherov can put up numbers similar to what he had last year without Stamkos and with Sergachev out of the picture, like that's, people keep trying to knock Tampa Bay here because of the pieces that they've lost, but if Kucherov can still drive that team and still bring it somewhere, like you got to at least respect him, and you got to say, hey, he's part of the conversation there, because Tampa Bay is going to need more from some guys, and Kucherov is already giving them way more than any other player almost in that Atlantic Division. I understand the want for Matthews, but Matthews is also surrounded by some great players, so I'm going to take that away. On the right side, again, if we're swinging, I'm swinging for the fence here. Connor Bedard is the guy I would take. If the Chicago Blackhawks are anything more than absolute toilet water, then it's probably because Connor Bedard did something. It's probably because of him, because he's dragging this team to whatever it needs to be. You know what I mean? So, it's one of those things. If he's good in any way, shape, or form, then it's his age, the team that he plays on. Imagine the Chicago Blackhawks being just decent, not terrible, like bottom feeders, just decent. And what if Bedard has flirts with 100 points? I'm having a hard time taking it away from him.
For long shots, you make the argument there, and he has that year, like you said, he's actually got some players around him. The Blackhawks actually have an identifiable first, second, third, and fourth lines this year. We'll see what happens. They bring in Teravainen. We'll see. But I mean, for me, it's probably we've made our recommendations there on for the Hart Trophy and all the awards here. We're about a minute 15 away from the draft room opening up here. Let's that's the final mock draft of the summer. You could see there SJ Sharkey's calling out Timo Meyer from the water there. I purposely put Chris Kreider next to Lane Hudson just to make Chris a little bit nervous there. So hopefully he's okay with that. But let's get back up on the screen here for a little bit before the draft kicks off. In the chat, we do have a comment here, and maybe this worries some. Parker, the under. He said, Ranit, looking at this group, I like this Christopher. We think alike on most of these picks. So Chris has a friend. Normally not a friend. Now you got a friend.
Wow. Most of the time, there's two worlds here. Parker's like, hey, man, I like this guy. And then you'll also see comments being like, get Chris out of here. There is no middle here with me. Either you enjoy me here or you don't. And most of the time, it's I don't. And it's fair. It's fair. I get it. It's fair, but Parker seems like a great guy. So
and Parker, if you enjoy him now, check him out on the Slapshot podcast.
There you go. Right. For all Chris all the time. There you go. Slapshot podcast.
If you thought you couldn't, if you thought you needed more of me, which you never do, but if you think so, come watch me absolutely lose my mind playing a game I willingly decide to play.
We got a full 10 like that.
We did. And unfortunately for one of our fan favorites here, Mr. Craig Cody, a.k.a. the Silver Fox, he was at his kid's hockey tryout. Hope the tryouts went well. Nobody bowed out. So unfortunately, you'll be a spectator for this one, but I believe you did sign up for the Total Hockey Now League. So you'll be in for that one. That's
way more important.
I can now peacefully not have to worry about which Minnesota player you will be taking ahead of me. I'm sad, Craig, but I'm a little part of me, though. I'm not completely sad.
Also, for you don't have me hovering around the 7th or 8th pick for Cale Makar.
Although I did notice that you jumped in front of me at 9, so I do believe there will be some sniping going on after how I've treated Chris for most of the mock drafts this year. So
Adam always at 10, and it's not going to go that way during the real draft. I could just see it right now. They're going to put him somewhere in. He's going to get 5. He's going to be right in the middle. There's not going to be no snake turn for him. It's going to be 5, and he has not practiced that.
And you see that Craig, we got Parker, who's Chris's friend. Now, Craig, Chris asked all of his friends and family to be ready to join us to make sure I didn't make it. So Craig thinks we got Craig thinking of Chris as an enemy here. So choose your side.
There you go. See, each one on one side. I did it. I feel a little bit comfortable, I feel good. I'm glad you're here. I hope your kid's tryout went well. I hope he's making the team. I hope he's leading the team too. Make the team and lead it. But I can comfortably not worry, and if anything, if you want to make this fun, take out your notepad next week. Like I said, next week is when it counts. So that's when I get more gray hair and worry about it.
Okay, Chris, I'm with you. So Parker the under there. Okay. Parker the under better. I keep leaving that last part out there. Parker the under does sound kind of cool, though. Either way, we're about 45 seconds away from the draft here. Our last mock draft of the season here on Total Hockey Now. Next week's the real deal, and then we'll have real stuff to talk about week to week. You know, I got to vent for a few seconds here. I'm trying to watch the A's last game. And, you know, sometimes the TV's on for a while. If you're on the same channel, it does the "Are you still awake?" kind of power save thing. I clicked OK, and you know what happened? It still shut off. Not happy.
Damn, you got hit with the Netflix when they're like, "Hey, are you still watching?" And you're like, "Yeah, man." Jeez.
Yeah, I'm still watching. I mean, I'm doing a mock draft, but I mean, this is
why.
history.
Like, why are you judging me? Yes, I know it's been 4 hours. Yes, I'm still watching. God,
Like,
I hate when they do that on Sundays. I'm trying to watch Red Zone, and they're like, "Are you still watching?" I was like, "I wish you never." Like, yeah, like strap in.
Like, do you know the Red Zone channel exists? Like, because if you did, you wouldn't ask that question. And McDavid goes with the first pick of the draft there. We are officially underway. So here we go. On the clock now. It looks like it's Omar. I need to zoom that one in a little bit more. We can see what we're doing here.
Omar is up.
Now, it's usually this is a McKinnon deal right here, but we'll see.
I mean, you really don't want to drop McKinnon to me, do you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer. If he doesn't take him, you got to take him.
Easy. There you go.
All right, so there's McKinnon. As he goes second overall. So we'll see. And he takes Matthews, and that's the guy who I would usually take at 3.
I was tempted to go Kucherov at 3. I was. But Austin Matthews got to be the guy.
And then Nikita Kucherov goes 4th. Leon Draisaitl 5th. So out of the gate, everything that we've expected.
I feel like we've been here before. I feel like we've seen this.
And we'll see what Spencer with the old Maple Leaf does there.
Let's see if anyone's paying attention here to the show on a daily basis, on a weekly basis.
Pasternak goes, okay, so your first 6 out of the box, those are the 6 guys that always go.
Is there any of those from 4 to 6? Is there any of those guys you would flip?
No, and there goes Kel McCarr. So, Chris, not going to get him again.
This is our 10th mock draft? 1 for 10.
Yeah, man. Wow. David's paying attention. Chris is trying to see how
I
far
specifically put myself in the 9 hole so I could take him.
All right, I know. So there goes Mikko Rantanen. Chris on the clock here as I'm about to make.
I feel
my
like that would have
pick.
been Chris's other pick as well.
Listen, I know we are a hockey podcast, but going on in Oakland right now, I saw a beer thrown onto the field a couple innings ago. Now there's fans on the field in the top of the 9th here. They are going to go out with a fight, these Oakland fans. Keep an eye on that if you have access to watching that game. So the Fuzzy Chris takes JT Miller, guy we've all talked about, known and love here. And, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I love taking Brady Tkachuk at the end of a round or at the beginning of the second round. Now the question is, what am I going to do with the second pick here? As tempted as I am to go with a Jack Hughes or an Artemi Panarin, I am not going to get caught with my proverbial you-know-what in my hands, and I'm taking a defenseman early. I've got Quinn Hughes. I'm addressing the lack of defense early.
Smart. It's smart.
I get 1 part of the equation here. 1 part.
1 part. I still got a while to go, but I at least have a cornerstone. I would have liked to have taken Jack Hughes there, but I did not want to see a sea of green in front of me again for a 8th out of 10 weeks.
Yeah. Can't have that happen to you again.
No. All right. So Kaprizov Miller is the pairing that Chris goes with. I go with a Brady Tkachuk, Quinn Hughes. Let's see here. Next up, we've got Mikko Rantanen, Artemi Panarin pairing there for David. For James with David on the clock here. He took McCarr.
I'm still really hurt by David. David, are you here?
And that's a Matthew. And that's a Matthew Tkachuk McCarr pairing. I like that as well as your top 2 there.
David, if you're here, us respond in the chat.
Let us know.
We want to know.
I just want to talk, David. I just want to talk.
And our first goalie off the board at pick 2.5, Igor Shesterkin goes to Spencer. So a Pasternak Shesterkin pairing. And there he is. Calypso says he's here.
Hey,
love the golf cart.
Thanks. First time listener? Damn, David. Okay. I'll be nice.
Welcome to the team.
I can't. David, there's no way you're a first time listener and you go with Gail McCarr there. That is pain.
It's just the word's out on him. I
Went
mean,
7 to pick Makar. That is wild.
if you want to safely grab him, that's the spot is 7. Anything before that, it should be the 6 we talk about. I've seen Makar go a couple of spots before that, but 7 is probably your safest bet where you're guaranteed to get him and don't have to overshoot.
Wow. First time caller. Let me take Cale Makar here. Damn. So people are doing this. I thought I was special. I am so basic.
It may be. I mean, that's a whole other issue you may have to resolve and sort out for yourself after we're off the air today. But nonetheless, so after Igor Shesterkin goes, we've got a Leon Draisaitl, Jack Hughes combo there for Alonso, strong out of the gate. Good right wing, left wing pairing there with Kucherov and Forsberg for Jagmet. And then Ant takes William Nylander. So he's got a pair of Leafs out of the gate to start. And there goes Sam Reiner to
I didn't go yet. I didn't go yet.
Okay. Now you're on the clock again after Bouchard, Yossi, and Crosby go there to tail out the second round and begin the third round.
Wow, that was a killer on the defense there. So I guess I'm going to have to take mine. I'm going to take the captain. I'm going to take the newly crowned captain, Rasmus Dahlin.
So there we go. So if you're talking the first 5 defensemen off the board, that has pretty much stayed consistent there with Makar, Hughes, Bouchard, Yossi, and Dahlin. Jagmet takes Elias Pettersson there. So good, pretty good top line there, the mix. Braden Point, so 3 centers out of the gate there for Draisaitl, but he can play the left wing, so it looks like you go Hughes, Point as your centers and make Draisaitl your left wing there. For Alonso, on the clock now with Spencer. He took David Pastrnak at 1-6 and Shesterkin at 2-5. He's on the clock right now at 3-6, and he takes Jason Robertson there. So there we go. And let's see here. David on the clock. Let's see what he goes. He took Makar in the first round, Kachuk in the second round. See what he does here.
I'm sorry, guys. I did take William Nylander. I must have been zoned out on that pick.
Must have been, but nonetheless, you got a pair of Leafs to start.
I'll
Not
take
a bad
that.
way to go. And he takes
What size do you want your Leafs jersey in?
Yeah.
I thought I was the Leafs fan here. Mitch Marner, speaking of Leafs, he just goes there to David. So Kachuk, Marner, and Makar gets Mitch Marner at 3-7. Here we go with James on the clock. I got to figure out what I'm taking here.
I was so thrown off with David picking Makar. It just threw me right off. I wasn't even zoned in out right there.
See, I know who I want if Chris doesn't take him here. So let's see. And he takes Hellebuck, so he gets his goalie. I always like to have a share of Edmonton's power play somewhere, and I can get that with Zach Hyman. So that gets that off the board now. I don't think I can wait for a goaltender here. I got basically 2 full rounds before it gets back to me. So without further ado, UC Saros is the guy I've been getting in most of my mock drafts, and I'm very happy with that right around that, 3rd, 4th round spot. So there we go. So I'll bookend the 3rd round and the beginning of the 4th round with Zach Hyman and UC Saros.
It's kind of who I wanted, but I was happy with either or.
Now Chris will make his 4th round pick.
Old habits die hard. It's just like Jake Gensel's just hanging around on the 4th round. Just you're like, okay.
And that's the thing. In the 4th round, there's nothing wrong with that.
I know it's a 10-team league, but still, he's hanging out in the 4th round.
Hanging out. You got to take him. And the Oakland A's, they win their last ever game at the Oakland Coliseum 3-2. That just goes final. So good on the fans that got to go today and celebrate and enjoy the last time the A's will take the field in the city of Oakland. Now we got James back on the clock here. 4th round pick 4.3. He's got a right wing and Mikko Rantanen, a left wing and Artemi Panarin, a defenseman and Adam Fox. Does he get this purple wave going here? Does he take a goalie? We shall see. Looks like the clock, it looks like it might have frozen. Oh, there we go. Okay, just needed to be updated. So he takes Jake Ottinger there. So he does indeed go with the goaltender there. So it's your first 4 off the board. It's Shesterkin, Hellebuck, Saros, Ottinger, which makes sense. Victor Hedman. So David gets his 2nd defenseman there. As a 1-2 punch. That's pretty damn good. Jack Eichel, first center for Spencer there. Then Chris Kreider goes to Alonso. Sergei Bobrovsky to Jagmet. So we're starting to see a little bit of a goalie run here, see what Anthony does. And he continues it with Vasilevsky, and you can't wait any further. And now I am glad that I took Saros and I didn't get caught with a goalie the way I usually get caught with a lack of defenseman.
Our Adam is growing up.
Partially. All right, so we wrap up the fourth round there. Kyle Connor at 4.9, Tage Thompson 4.10, and then Svechnikov to open the fifth round. Certainly some value there. And there goes Alex Ovechkin at 5.2. Connor Bedard goes at 5.3, 10-team league, fifth round. That's about where he's going to go. So Ant building out a nice team. He's got Matthews and Bedard as his centers, and Nylander, Dahlin, Vasilevsky. There goes Moritz Seider. So first defenseman for Jagmet there with Alonso on the clock, and he has yet to take a defenseman or a goalie.
I feel like that's going to change here.
I feel like we got to see a green coming soon. I'm just excited that I'm for once I'm happy with how I'm always happy with how my draft is going early, but I really like my team so far. There goes Jeremy Swayman. So he was a guy that was going in that Saros, Ottinger, Hellebuck range. He's fallen a little bit now with the contract dispute. Spencer on the clock here. See who he took Jack Eichel at 4.5 last round. And then he had Ilya Sorokin. So there we go. We'll see. Interesting to see if he grabs Varlamov later or how he handles that. David yet to take a goaltender. We'll see if he's going to wait or if he's going to try and get in on the train here. Chris on the clock in a couple of picks. I'm right after him. See if Chris snipes me here coming up. And there goes Noah Dobson. So he's building from the blue line out here, David. Not a bad way to go. And you got to start 4 defensemen. James on the clock here. See how that affects the movement of defensemen in the upcoming picks. James grabs his first center, Sebastian Aho at pick 5.8. And now Chris on the clock here. Let's see if he snipes my guy. I know who I'm taking with one of my 2 picks, as long as you don't take him.
Okay.
So you're probably going to take him.
Let's start here.
And there he goes.
Was that your pick?
That was my pick.
Oof.
There you go. So you got me on one snipe. There you go. Good
Nailed
job.
It. Getting better.
You are getting better. All right. So the first of my 2 picks here, take Adrian Kempe. I know that's Anthony's guy, but good pick there at the end of the 5th round. Now let's open the 6th round. Yeah, I can't. I want to take. See, there's a guy I want, but I feel like I'm reaching on him if I grab him here. But sometimes you got to get the guys you want to get, and he's going to be the top defenseman in Utah. So there we go. I know there's McAvoy on the board. I know there's Heiskanen on the board, but sometimes you go for the guys you really want and that you believe are going to have a big year. And I am big on Mikhail Sergachev.
I mean, if you're just going to gift me Dougie Hamilton, I guess I'll take it.
You can take the missed time. That's fine. But we do start to see a sea of green going here. There goes Miro Heiskanen. So James takes him, even though I pass on him. I don't know if David goes with a 4th defenseman and just finishes it up. I don't know if I do that. He's still got to get a goalie and a center. But with a Hedman, McCarr, Dobson, 1, 2, 3 on the blue line. Yeah, and then he goes and gets Sasha Barkov there. Selke favorite, and will likely take it again. Talked about the NHL Awards odds earlier. If you want to go back and review, or if you're watching later on, go to the full episode if you're just watching on the mock draft video that comes out on Mondays. We got Spencer on the clock here. No defenseman for him yet. So you hear about a 0 running back strategy in football sometimes. He's going 0D right now. And Brad Marchand goes for Spencer, then Wyatt Johnston to Alonso. That's got to bother Anthony a little bit because I'm sure he was thinking about Johnston there with his upcoming pick. There goes Steven Stamkos. And Ant's on the clock right now. State of Survival checking in. He's late. Yeah, we're happy to have you whenever you get here.
Late? I mean, you're early somewhere in one time zone, probably.
Somewhere. And once this draft is over, I will throw the Total Hockey Now League link back in the comment section for anybody. Well, we still got a few spots remaining before next Thursday's draft at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. Anthony making his pick here, it looks like. Clock winds down. Oh, no. Just the screen got screwed on me again. He takes Charlie McAvoy there, then Brock Besser to Omar. Pair of goalies for Nuno to Alexander Georgiev and Jacob Markstrom. Stuart Skinner to Omar there. So we are seeing our run of top-tier goalies going off the board. Ant gets his first Devil with Jesper Bratt. Yet again, Anthony just quietly putting together a really strong team. That's just what he does.
And then once we hit the real draft, that's when I will have my bad draft. That'll be the kicker.
Let's just keep doing this for the next 12 hours. Great practice, this State of Survival. I would love to live in a world where we just do mocks all day. I mean, I try to do one a day on my phone while I'm watching TV at night before bed, but yeah, I would love to live in a world where we just mock all day. Does Hannafin in Vegas interest anyone? As a defenseman, as like a third, fourth defenseman if you're strong, third defenseman if you waited a little bit, sure, yeah.
I'm trying to find a path for Hannafin to the top power play unit because I feel like that's Shea Theodore's spot, and I'm not too keen on defensemen who don't get a top power play spot unless it's crazy value.
Still a lot of quality out here right now. James on the clock here. Took Miro Heiskanen with the last pick. He's on the clock with 7.8. The last three picks were Matthew Barzal, Vincent Trocheck, and then Tim Stützle at 7.7 there. So still no defenseman for Spencer. Still no defenseman for Alonso. They see what we're doing. They, as Chris likes to say, when we're zigging, they're zagging.
That's unfortunate.
There goes Clayton Keller. Certainly somebody I was considering at that pick, and then apparently Chris was going to take him.
That's literally who I had lined up. Take a shot in the dark here. Start with that.
Joseph Wall goes there. Let's see here. I don't want to do that yet. I got to make a decision here real soon. All right, you know what? Joel Eriksson, I'm going to take that. Top line center, gets your categories across the board. So that'll fill out. That's my one of my centers there. And then I feel like if I don't do this, the run is going to happen. And much like to a lesser degree with Edmonton, where I want to share that top power play unit. Same thing with the Toronto Maple Leafs here. So I could go Morgan Riley. I could go Brandon Montour, but for the sake of this draft, I'm going to take Morgan Riley. And Chris back on the clock here after taking Joseph Wall last round. There goes Dylan Larkin, another quality center there, a guy we've talked about on Total Hockey Now many, many times about how if you whiff or miss on some of the better centers, he's certainly not a bad consolation prize.
Did Dylan Larkin hurt somebody? His ADP was at 90. Maybe nobody has confidence in the Yzerman plan.
Got a question in the chat here from State of Survival. Let me ask, whose record will get beat first? Matthews beating Sundin's goal record or for the Leafs, or Ovi beating the Gretzky goal record? I have to double check how far away Austin Matthews is from Matt Sundin's goal record there. Rupe Hintz, another center off the board. So 3 of the last 4 picks are true centers there. Make it 4 of the last 5. Carter Verhaeghe. There goes Travis Konechny at to Spencer at 8.5. Freddie Anderson at 8.6. Mika Zibanejad at 8.7. So there we go. Ant's on the clock now. We'll see what he does with his next pick here. But a lot of, we'll call that bronzish tan on the board right now, which means a lot of centers are going.
I want to say, just to answer State of Survival's question here, I would think it. I think it's Ovi. I think Ovi's got a better shot. They already feed Ovi the puck a ton. I feel like anytime there's an empty net this year, like it's his. He's less than 50 away too, so like it's there for Ovi. I think he can do it.
It's 52 goals for Matthews to get there to tie Sunday.
52. I mean that's very doable for him. I mean, that's doable for Matthew.
It might be a photo finish if you consider their rates of scoring. It could very well be like, you know, they're keeping track of both at the same time.
That's definitely close.
It's close. So after Zibanejad, Gustav Forsling goes, who is a guy that Parker, the underbetter, talked about earlier, being one of the best defensive defensemen in the league there. So then after him, Thatcher Demko finally goes to Omar. So he gets Skinner and Demko in back-to-back rounds, 7-2 and 8-9 on those picks. And then Seth Jarvis to close out round 8. Matt Boldy opens up round 9. Then we got Devon Taves, Cole Caulfield, John Tavares, Mackenzie Weegar, Brandon Montour, Kevin Fiala, and now James on the clock here. We'll see what he does. Draft's moving along here. Still pretty happy with my team.
Did you do that on purpose, Ant?
I'm feeling fantastic right now. I'm feeling absolutely fantastic.
Well, you know what? If I can't get the winger, I might as well get his centerman.
So there goes
you
Suzuki.
go. Come on.
I'll take Nick here instead.
You knew that was the right move.
First time I've taken Nick Suzuki in our mock drafts. Good to be here.
I mean, let's see here. I got 15 seconds to make a pick. You know, the fact that Nugent Hopkins is still out there, I don't think that's a bad value pick here to close out that round. Definitely have my share of left wing centers and right wings. Now let's take a look. I don't know if what pick are we at right now? I'm not going to wait any longer on this guy because he's not going to be around by the time he gets back. He's a guy who I've been targeting a lot as my number 2 goaltender in many of our mock drafts and the ones I do on my own. But Darcy Kemper, I'm a big believer that he's going to have a very good season with the Kings, and he'll be a reliable goalie too.
That is not who I thought you were going to take when you said that.
Okay. Glad I can throw the occasional curveball at you.
Yeah.
There's a spot that opened up on Tampa Bay's power play, and it's going to be filled by Brandon Hagel. And I feel like good things can come from that. Anytime you get to play next to Nikita Kucherov, good things will happen.
Hagel, a guy that does get overlooked and forgotten about at times, but you know, I know Anthony's a fan of his, but yeah, he's going to get that increased playing time there in Tampa. Now I think I know who you thought I was going to take, Ant.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say it, but
I'm a little shocked.
So there goes Jacob Chikrin to James with David on the clock now. He takes Owen Tippett. There goes Luke Hughes, Vince Dunn. So some green going here in the last couple of rounds with Dagbert on the clock here. Let's move this down a little bit. So there goes Alex DeBrincat after Vince Dunn. And now Ant's on the clock.
Yeah, it's about time to close out the defense. Dahlin, McAvoy, Forsling. This guy took Luke Hughes, so I'm going to take a page out of your guys' book. I'm taking Brock Faber to close out my defense.
Love that pick. He's a guy that I try to get as my number 3 defenseman when I wait a little bit. Not in that position today, but again, Ant just quietly putting together a rock solid team.
This is the best I felt about a team. So it's glad that we get to the end and we feeling really like I think I've had good teams, but I'm feeling really good about this one.
We got 6 rounds to go here as Jonathan Marchessault closes out round 10, and Nuno is going to be up here for pick 11.1. A lot of green there. Looks like a lot of green the last few rounds. Green and gold.
Here we go again with Ant taking the players I want. Next time I'm going in front of him.
I moved out of your way so you could draft Cale Makar. I said, let me go to the front of the room.
I still didn't get him.
See, you were focused on trying to screw me when you should have been trying to screw
Anthony. I just can't. I can't get a hold of Cale. Can't get a hold of him.
Well, Adam, you talked about the goalies, and this is who I thought you were talking about, and it's Connor Ingram. So I'm going to take him.
Ingram, I have Kemper above Ingram that on my pecking order. But if for some reason like somebody would have taken him, or if I would have waited and he had gone, I would have hoped he would have gotten back to me. But now I know he probably wouldn't have. So glad I did what I did. All right, so Mike Matheson, I'm sure that was a defenseman. Chris was on his list. Brent Burns, Phil Peronic, and now David on the clock here. So defensive, we're in that phase of the draft where people are filling out those defensive spots on their rosters. There goes Aiden Hill. And now James on the clock here with 11-8. And then Chris coming up after him, and then myself. I know who I want with both of my picks here. The question is, will I get him?
I'm going to try to take one.
I know. Damn it. I know who you're going to take already. Just remember, I get to give it right back to you. There goes Jordan Kyrou at 11-8 with Chris on the clock. And yeah, you know what? Fine. If that's how you want to play, fine. There goes Slavkovsky.
Hey,
Yeah. Good for you.
this
That's what I thought I could. I figured if I took Slavkovsky, you were going to take Lafreniere. So I was like, well, which one do I want more? And in hindsight, I probably should have taken Slavkovsky because he hits. But I was like, but Lafreniere can get the point. So I feel like this was a lose-lose for me no matter what.
And just because I know you love him as a defenseman, I'm taking Werenski. Just because all you have to do is take Lafreniere. I would have taken Lafreniere.
I have made no friends today. None.
There you go. There you go.
That's not true. Parker, apparently. Somebody is okay with me being here.
He's going to be the only one that comes over when you invite people over for the Falcons game on Sunday. Big game against the Saints early in the season, by the way.
I'm not even watching. Hold on. No!
He timed out and he gets Carlson.
It's not bad, but it's not what I wanted.
Who would you have taken there had you not been distracted?
I can't say that.
I know. You know what? I know who you would have taken. I'm looking at who's there. I know who your guy is.
You did this to me, Adam. You
did this to yourself by taking Lafreniere.
Wait. I got the ball rolling. I feel like I poked you with a fork, and then you just stabbed me with a sword on the way back, and I was just so perplexed, and I was like, oh my god! Like I got ran over, and then I couldn't focus. Oh, John Carlson was who I wanted.
I figured that's the guy. And hey, buddy, I'm from Brooklyn. You come at me with that, I'm coming back.
Look at that! Just great. Look at that. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 defensemen in a row. I thought I could get a piece of it. I need Erik Karlsson I need him to return to 100 points. I need 100 points out of Erik Karlsson.
It's possible. Maybe there's a little Pittsburgh resurgence this year, and Karlsson is the guy that leads the charge on the blue line.
Yeah, this draft is not great, but it's not terrible.
This might be my best one of the season. I am so happy with this draft.
You guys are having fun. You guys, it's good though. You guys are
as long as some of us are. Tomas Hertl. Love the Tomas Hertl pick. He's been rising in mock drafts there as the number 2 center in Vegas at pick 12.8. Pretty good there. And then 12.9 is Brady Shea. And Nikolai Ehlers rounds out round 12. Elias Lindholm opens up round 13 along with Blake Coleman. And now Anthony on the clock. Let's see who he takes here with just 4 picks to go.
Why? Let me take Jeff Skinner here.
Good pick. Gonna play on that line with Draisaitl. At least that's how it looks. But remember the Oilers top 6. We all want to have a piece of that, right?
We do.
Jeremy Lauzon, Robert Thomas, Brock Nelson all going here. But David on the clock. There goes Mark Scheifele, Thomas Harley, and now Chris back on the clock here. I got to be ready to make my pick. What am I going to do? Chris has got a decision to make. Let's see here. So he takes Lucas Raymond, a guy I was considering, but not somebody that I'm going to lose some sleep over here, but would have taken him had Chris not taken him. You know, I want to grab another right wing here. There's a lot of options I can go with. You know, I'm looking at Drake Batherson. I don't understand why he falls so much. I know he's Ottawa, but he still shoots the puck. He gets hits. But I got a feeling Martin Necas is going to do something this year. So I'm going to take him with that first pick. And then let's see here. Want to have a good fifth defenseman, and just to really stick it to Chris, another guy he likes to take, Seth Jones.
Oh, okay. I didn't think that was going there. I can't wait because he's not coming around. And the projection is, I just want you to know, Yahoo hasn't projected at 49 points this season. Okay, 49.
So yeah, you're not going to wait anymore on him because he might.
I can't. I wanted to wait for him as he's coming back, but all of you here have decided I am the scapegoat today. I am the one. I am the one. Even if you're here for the first time, the aura, they're just like, this looks like a guy Chris would take.
All right, so Batherson, Kane, and Tuck, all wings go after Lane Hudson and Pekka Luukkonen. And then Nazem Kadri there to Jagbit. Anthony gets Matvey Mishkov, who we talked about earlier. Again, just Anthony quietly going about his business. And then Evander Kane, Jake Sanderson rounds out round 14. Coming up on round 15 here, 2 rounds to go. Everybody's got 2 picks remaining. Let's fill out these rosters. There goes Aaron Ekblad, who's a guy I've noticed in mocks that just like sits there and hangs out there. And it's like, why? Like he's still like, listen, he's for a number 4 defenseman on a fantasy team. I'll take that. There goes Mark Stone. 15.2. And gets Chris Letang there. So filling out the back end of his blue line. Pierre Kochetkov goes, Jamie Benn, Frank Vetrano, and now David on the clock here. Gets Tom Wilson, Mason Marchment, and now Chris on the clock again.
I think the fact that I have a Bratt and Caulfield going left wing, right wing is very helpful for when I'm going through my lineup on a daily basis.
One of the guys we talked about for Rookie of the Year, Logan Stankoven, is who Chris takes. And I like, he's a guy I've been getting in the last couple of rounds of our drafts here. Jake DeBrusk, I feel like should have a nice season with Vancouver there. The left wing, right wing eligibility. Certainly not a bad guy to put on your bench. And I need one more goalie to close things out here. So I see Jordan Binnington there. I see some, actually, the fact that Binnington's still out there, fine, I'll take him. There's other guys I usually take as my last goalie, but if Binnington's still sitting out there in round 16 as a third goalie, sure, why not? I mean, is Joel Hofer really ready to take over the lion's share yet? I don't think so. Chris has to make his last pick here. Let's see here. Got a question in the chat. Whose top 4 is better, the Sabres or the Panthers? Let's take a look. So evaluate them because the Sabres, we talked about Rasmus Dahlin earlier.
That's a good one there.
So the Sabres top
your
4.
second goalie, Chris, or your third?
That is my third. I needed some insurance.
So Philip Gus, we'll answer that question in a minute. Let's round out the draft here. Jordan Binnington, Philip Gustafson, Trevor. Yeah, here goes the goalie wave to close it out. Tristan Jarry, Ilya Samsonov, Logan Thompson, Bo Horvat lasting to that late in the draft. Pretty good. That's a great pick by Jagmet there with Anthony on the clock here. His final pick. He needs a third goaltender. See what he does. He takes. He gets the other. He goes with the Utah handcuff. Not a bad way to play that. There goes Varlamov. With Stuart
I was tempted on Askarov. I really was. I had my hand on the trigger.
I think he's going to be a really good goalie, but I don't know. Fantasy wise, not this year.
Yeah,
next year. This year he learns and takes his lumps. Last pick of the draft coming up here.
Who is Tampa Bay's backup goalie? Because I didn't see him on here.
Who knows?
Jim Johansson. He was last year. And then the last pick of the draft there was Gustav Nyquist. Certainly not a bad way to go to get inside that Nashville top 6 as a roster fill out position there. So let's go through our 3 teams quick. We'll talk with State of Survival's team. We'll put a wrap on this. Another lovely edition of Total Hockey Now here. Appreciate
State of Survival on this.
He was late to the draft. So
he was late to the meeting.
Late to the meeting. Let's start with Anthony's team here. So we quietly just putting together a top-notch team. I'll let you break it down.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to spread myself out with different draft positions. I think this is the first time I picked third, I think. Because I picked fourth and got Austin Matthews. So I went Austin Matthews number 1. It was either him or Nikita Kucherov for me, but I went Austin Matthews. The only auto pick I got was William Nylander, which I'm not upset about because I got a little tandem there. So I think I'm going to get some points out of that. A little stack there. Rasmus Dahlin, I had to get in on defense because they were starting to go a little bit. Once Roman Josi went, I had to make the move. Andre Vasilevsky as the goalie, same thing. The goalies were moving, so I had to take him. Connor Bedard falling at 5. I feel like that's the spot, like you said, Adam, where to take him. So Connor Bedard was definitely where I went. Charlie McAvoy on defense as well. And then, Jesper Bratt and Cole Caulfield are left wing and right wing eligible. So I took them both there. Gustav Forsling as well with the defense. Finished defense off with Brock Faber. I'm very excited about the defense of that, even though this doesn't matter because it's a mock draft, but it felt good for me. Connor Ingram was my second goalie. You talked about him a lot, and that's who I thought you were actually taking. You went with Darcy Kemper, but we had been talking about Ingram a lot, and I thought that's who you meant. But then short up my center with Tomas Hertl out of Vegas. Jeff Skinner, like you said, got to get some points out of that team in Edmonton, and I feel like Jeff Skinner is going to have a bounce back this year. Michkov is definitely a guy that I'm always going to be targeting. Like, you target Celebrini. Michkov is my guy right now. Chris has Hudson, so that's how that crumbles there. And Chris Letang is if he's my bench guy coming off of defense, I think I'm in pretty good standing there to have him be my fifth defenseman. And then I was going to stack the goalie, so I went with Vijmelka, that if I said his name correctly.
The Mishkov pick's low risk, high reward. 14th round. You got a guy that could potentially score 30 goals, maybe have 30 assists. Why not? And if it doesn't pan out, it was a 14th round pick. Who cares?
Yep. Coming off the bench. It was so in case Tortorella benches him, I'll bench him. So that'll be it.
Now we always do one viewer listener team since David's new to the group today. Let's take out his team, the guy who took Cale Makar away from Chris. So he goes Makar round 1, Matthew Tkachuk round 2, Mitchell Marner round 3, Victor Hedman round 4, Noah Dobson round 5. So
solid.
Out of the gate, gets his wings, gets his 2 wings, gets 3 really good defensemen. And hey, he doesn't even have to play all 3 of those defensemen all year. Somebody loses, one of those could be a nice defense trading chip if you sustain an injury somewhere else. Then goes right down the middle, Barkov, Stützle, and Verhaeghe. Stützle and Verhaeghe also have wing eligibility there as well. Fiala, Owen Tippett could have a big year in Philadelphia. Waits on goalies for a long time. Does not value the position that much, and that's okay if you're going to punt the categories. Still gets a quality option in Aiden Hill there. Then gets his 4th defenseman in John Carlson, who Chris meant to take instead of Eric Carlson. Wrong Carlson there. It happens.
That might be the best defense.
Probably is the best defense. I mean, when you go with Makar, Hedman, Dobson, it's really tough to compete with that. Otherwise, you want to throw, Bouchard, Yossi, but then you got Sands. I would say maybe my defensive group is probably second best with Hughes, Sergachev, and Riley as a top 3. But nonetheless, David really finishes the draft strong, gets Batherson with some value late, gets his second goalie with Jarry, who should start, even though he didn't look so good last year. I doubt they're going to go to Nedeljkovic again for a long-term option. Tom Wilson there, he's going to get his hits. And good draft there by David. And Chris, it's on to you.
Yes, well done, David. So for obviously I went with JT Miller because I can never get Cale Makar. JT Miller throws out hits, right? It's banger league. I can get a lot of categories right off the riff. Kirill Kaprizov, we know the drill, right? Calder Hellebuck, I feel like I got the second best goalie, so why not? Jake Gensel is just there. And then I wanted to make sure that I don't repeat the Adam effect, which is wait too long for defensemen. So Josh Morrissey, Dougie Hamilton, we settle that in. Joseph Wall, I mean, man, Toronto's going to win games. I just need Joseph Wall to be healthy. Please protect him. Oh, dear fantasy gods. Dylan Larkin, Nick Suzuki. I feel like some of them are getting slept on a little bit here. I feel like there's some good value there. Larkin could push a point per game. I maybe Suzuki can. They stay healthy. He plays a lot as well. Brandon Hagel, the power play time is there. Alexis Lafreniere, because I needed to spite Adam. Eric Carlson, the computer gods thought that's who I wanted. Lucas Raymond, some upside here, right? Apparently the Yzerman plan, I could stack him with Larkin as well, so I feel like there's some good correlation there. Lane Hudson, because he wasn't making it back, right? So I had no choice here. Logan Stankovic, right? Depending on where he plays, a top 6 role would be nice. That'd be kind of cool. If he could stick there, or if not, move all the way to the top line. And then I needed some assurance for my goaltending because I don't know if Joseph Wall can stay healthy. Philip Gustafson is there. I'm not really worried about Marc-Andre Fleury. Like he's older. I think Minnesota plays better. Philip Gustafson is going to get the bulk of the starts. At worst, this is a 10-team league. So if it doesn't work out, there's still goalies available. So I don't feel like I'm tied to what I take. If I needed the flexibility, I could go. I could pick up a goalie, injuries or whatnot. But that's where I had to go.
David checking in. Thanks, guys. My main focus was as many PP1 guys can't find power play points on the wire. And he's absolutely right.
Yep.
Power play points are the first things to go. Keep an eye on guys moving up units. Sometimes you got a guy that's on a second unit that tends to produce with the little time they have. But yeah, got to find those PP1 guys. A little bit of breaking news before we get to my team. Anaheim Ducks goaltender John Gibson underwent emergency appendectomy surgery last night. It's going to be out approximately 3 to 6 weeks. Of course, big incision in the middle of your body does hamper your ability to play the goaltending position. So he will take the time he needs. He's looking to come back probably here anywhere between mid-October to the early November. So,
and I would assume that that's a bigger deal with a maybe 14 team to longer type draft, because I haven't seen John. Maybe he went once in one of our drafts, but I have not seen him be taken at all.
There is zero faith in Gibson at this point as a fantasy goalie. Pretty much, 14-team league. Okay, yeah. He's a guy that's going to start, so you have to consider him. But outside of a 14-team league, you don't got to look at him.
Do you know who his backup is?
Lucas Dostal.
That's right. He's the guy expected to, slowly transition to being the guy. And he looked good last year when he did get his chances. So let's
maybe something to consider towards the end of a draft.
Something to consider there, too, if you're in a 14-team league, even with Dostal as well. Looking at my team, Brady Tkachuk. Right out of the gate, guy I'm always happy to get with get at the end of the year. Quinn Hughes, so I did not want to make my mistake with defenseman, and I get Zach Hyman. So out of the gate, I've got a guy who got categories across the board, strong defenseman, strong winger that I could play on both sides, shore up my crease with UC Saro. So out of the gate, I'm happy. Adrian Kempe, certainly nothing wrong with that at 5'10". Yeah, I reached a little bit on Sergachev, but he is a defenseman I am big on this year with that increased role and minutes he's going to have in Utah. So, I could have easily taken McAvoy there. If Morrissey or Dobson's there, there's no way I'm passing up on those two. But, I could have done McAvoy, but I decided to go Sergachev instead. Joel Eriksson Ek there, not a flashy, sexy name, but certainly going to, again, like Tkachuk, fills up your categories across the board. Morgan Riley is a third defenseman. Great. There are drafts where I'm lucky to have him as a second defenseman. Then the Nugent Hopkins pick at 9-10 is a value pick there, just getting a little bit more of that Edmonton top six. Darcy Kemper. Guy, the way I am with Sergachev, he's a goaltender that I'm big on this year. I think he's going to have a very good year in Los Angeles. Then after Chris spited me with Lafreniere, I double spite him with Slavkovsky and Zach Werenski. So just sticking it to him there. And not just sticking it to him, but I think two good picks there. So it wasn't just a matter of trying to get at my buddy. I got to kill two birds with one stone. So I'm a happy camper there.
Yeah, this was like last week where you thought you were getting one on him, but this was like a double whammy on Chris.
Yeah,
so that's not clear.
That one
Take
stung.
no prisoners. Take
It
no
shows,
prisoners.
don't be spiteful during the draft.
It can come back to bite you. And then Martin Necas, who we know wants out of Carolina, but he's going to have an increased role, and they're going to lean on him more for production. So I'll take that in the 13th round, at the end of the 13th round. Seth Jones, who I always punt plus minus, but we talked about Chicago being an actual team this year, so that should result in a little bit better stats for Seth Jones, and then Jake DeBrusk and Jordan Bennington to round out my team. So I'm really, really happy with that. It's probably my favorite one of the mock draft series. We did all 10 throughout the summer here. Big news for Dostal with all those off nights. Yeah, Anaheim is one of those teams that plays on a staggered, that kind of staggers their schedule a little bit. So maybe something to consider there. He thinks State of Survival chiming in. He thinks David Stamkos is going to have a 100-point season. I got no problem with that. I agree. Let's look at these. He did ask earlier whose top four is better, Buffalo or Florida, and the knee-jerk answer is probably Florida. But let's take a look. So you got Forsling and Ekblad on your top pairing there, with Kulikov and Nico Mikkola as the second pairing, versus Buffalo, where you're going to have Byram and Captain Rasmus Dahlin, along with Owen Power and Henry Yokiharu. So
they're just younger, Buffalo. I don't know if it's ready for prime time yet. But you're talking about a team that won the Stanley Cup compared to, you got the talent there. It just has to be realized, right? Like,
I think that, so Florida's defense is a better in real life defense because they literally win championships. But I think Buffalo's top four is more fun. So in terms of fantasy, that top four is more fun. They probably will get more points. There'll be some nights where it hurts, but there'll be some nights where it's good. Whereas Florida, you're going to get consistency out of them. They are there to win championships. I don't think their defense is going to wow anybody in fantasy, but they're a better real life defense. If I was building a team, I'd want Florida's defense, and maybe in 5 years I'll want Buffalo's. But today, better real life defense, Florida. A lot more fun in Buffalo though.
Also, the better fantasy defenses in Buffalo with Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin, Bowen Byram. But again, Forsling Ekblad, like real life hockey. You're not talking fantasy. It's a really strong top pairing there, and then Kulikov and Mikula. That's a good not to say a shutdown pairing, but that's a two tough guys to play against and to get any sort of shots off against. So there we go. And Craig wants to do another mock. State of Survival wants to do another mock, but unfortunately, I have to get to the doctor for lab work in about a half hour here, so I don't have time for another mock as much as I would love to do one here.
You get to do the real thing next week.
Yeah, next Thursday's the real deal when it all matters, where Chris really wants to draft between the number 6 and probably 8th pick if he really wants Cale Makar.
Apparently not, because apparently at 7, Cale Makar goes too. So
that's why I said between 6 and 8, man.
I need to
it's like David said, he picked 7th because he wanted Makar, and that's the guaranteed spot where you're going to get him unless somebody jumps the gun. And if that happens, that's still going to leave you with a Kucherov, a Pasternak, Matthews, a Draisaitl. So, 7's actually a good place to be.
The only guarantee for Chris is pick 1. You get Cale Makar. You get first pick. You get Cale Makar whenever you want.
Can you imagine the chaos, though, I would cause? I can't. No, I'm pretty sure McDavid can play defense, too, if you asked him. I'm pretty sure he would be good.
We'll see if Chris does that next week. We'll have to determine the draft order. I just dropped the link for the Total Hockey Now draft in there to the comment section again. Just a couple spots left. We're doing that drive, 8 o'clock. Draft,
8 p.m. Eastern. You can all show up late. You can all be there.
The draft will start at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll probably come on a little bit before that, maybe 15, 20 minutes before, but the draft will start at 8. So don't let Chris tell you that the draft starts at 8:15 because it starts
and
at
it's
8.
Random, right? Like
first year, we're going to do a random. Yeah, I'll put all the names in a randomizer because it's first year, and then snake draft and all that good stuff. So Craig will be there next week.
You won't see this room. I will be in the war room with multiple screens. And I also have to have the TV open if the Mets make the playoffs because they'll be playing one of the wild card games there. So I have to multitask this show.
Wonderful. Everybody's distracted. Good.
Here's the thing. I'm excited to see the war room. That's burying the lead. Like, who cares about the mock? I'm excited to see the war room here. Subway to Shea podcast. Mets Braves. A lot of anger about that series getting postponed to a doubleheader on Monday. Should have gotten one game in before the hurricane came through. Mets Braves pivotal series coming up there. Go to Subway to Shea podcast.
Doubleheader Monday. Just spend all day drinking Monday. That's it. It'll either be good or bad. I'm not saying what to do. I'm just saying if you need a doctor's note, I don't know a doctor.
Or just brown bagging at work at the main job. I've worked there. You could probably get away with it.
Solutions. We're finding solutions.
I am off Thursday and Friday, so there will be preparation for this draft if there hasn't been enough through this 10-time mock draft that we've done.
10-time mock draft. It's been we started these all the way back in July, and here we are. Slapshots podcast out right now from this week. Watch Chris break his own heart and Puckdoku, among other things. And Rip and Riff, new episode came out yesterday. Jared and I do some football and baseball. I give it to John Fisher, Oakland A's owner. You don't want to miss that one. But yes, if you want to see some cards getting ripped, go check that out at Rip and Riff. But nonetheless, guys, mock draft season, it's over. We made it. We're going to be flipping the calendars to October on Tuesday.
Somebody make sure to pick up Green Day next week, okay?
I just saw them last Friday night in San Francisco. Good show. Smashing Pumpkins, also a great show right before them. So I enjoyed that. But for my line mates, at Ant Rivera 86 and at Fuzzy Chris 91, I'm at Pucking Thoughts. Total Hockey Now. Check us out there on all the social media platforms or email us at totalhockeynow@gmail. But thanks, fellas. And we will see you next week for the real deal here on Total Hockey Now.